Today we're going to take a look at the Sigma 30mm f1.4 for your Sony cameras. But before we start, you should know a few things about me. 1, I love to shoot video. 2, I like to take photos. And lastly, I'm not wearing any pants. If we're going to go shoot this thing, I have to have some pants on, right? Remember they said I'm not allowed out of the house without any pants? Remember that? I do. Anyways, I'm going to find some pants, then we're going to take a closer look at the Sigma 30mm lens. Hey everyone, I'm Dave and this is Red Arrow Media. This video is part of my lens series. I have a couple videos made already. If you like a channel about camera gear and filmmaking tips, then please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Alright, let's get into the video. Today we're talking about the 30mm lens from Sigma. Now, the first Sigma lens I ever bought was the 16mm. This is a fantastic lens. You can look all over the place on reviews and you're going to get great reviews for the 16mm. Now, the same can be said for the 30mm, but they're very different lenses. Now, the reason why I wanted to get the 30mm, because sometimes I just can't get the shots that I want with the 16mm. Sounds a little odd, but I do find that the 16 is a little bit wide. Now, you put that on an APS-C sensor like the A6400, which I'm using right now, and this one here becomes a 24mm equivalent. Now the 30mm, you put that on my Sony camera and it becomes closer to a 45. So now you see I'm getting a little bit less wide with the lenses, and that's okay because sometimes you want a little bit tighter shot. So the biggest reason I bought the 30mm lens was because I wanted a lens that wasn't as wide as the 16mm, and the other one was price, of course. We all know the Sigma lenses for the Sony cameras are really reasonably priced. So you put those two reasons together and that's why I bought the 30mm lens. Now, truth be told, I bought this lens used here locally and I got a really good deal, which is kind of odd because I've been watching the used market for the Sigma 30 and the 56 as well. You don't really see them go on sale that often. A lot of times once somebody buys one of these lenses, they keep them. Now, of course, this person was jumping ship from Sony to another manufacturer, so that's why they did not need the lens anymore. Hey, bonus for me, and hopefully they find a camera system that works for them. So far, I've been pretty happy with the Sonys. Now, the first thing you're going to notice with these two lenses is the weight and the size. This is the 30mm right here, much smaller than the 16mm, and much lighter actually. And some people are surprised by that, but because the 16mm is a wider lens, it kind of makes sense. Now, I enjoy the fact that the 30mm is smaller and lighter. It fits really well on my gimbal, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's get into the details about this lens. One of the first things people want to know, especially when it comes to a Sony camera, a Sony Alpha camera, they want to know, how is the autofocus? Well, the autofocus is very responsive. It's really quick. Not a lot of hunting. Now, I haven't noticed much noise when the lens is trying to set its focus, and that's great because I shoot a lot of videos and you don't want to have any noise there. The other thing is the manual focus on this is very good. I find that it has a fairly decent focus ring, not as big as the Sigma 16, which I love. I love that focus ring. It's really easy to set your focus on that, but it's pretty big on the 30. The 30 itself is not as big, so it's not going to be as big, but it's pretty decent for the size of it, and I think it's really easy to get good manual focus on this lens. Now, some people will say that it's not really sharp at f1.4. I haven't found that to be the problem. I don't always shoot at f1.4. A lot of times I want to get as much light in there so you get that blurred out background, that depth of focus. But a lot of times I'll shoot at f1.8 or something like that. If I need to open it up to f1.4, sure, no problem. But I haven't really noticed it not being sharp, and that's for both photos and for video. Now, of course, if you're going to shoot video at f1.4, it's going to be pretty easy to lose that focus, so just pay attention to make sure that you're really focused tight when you're shooting at f.4 in video. Now, another great thing about this lens is the fact that it's pretty darn good for photos and for video. I shoot both, so I want a lens that's going to work for both. I don't want to be exchanging lenses while I'm out on a shoot. I'm kind of lazy that way, if you know what I'm talking about. But this thing here looks really good for photos. Now, I love using the 16mm for landscape photography, but this 30mm is pretty darn good for it as well because it lets in a lot of light. You can shoot in low light situations. Sure, it's not as wide as the 16, but to be honest, 30 is not really that bad. It's kind of a happy medium. Now, for sure, easily my favorite thing about the 30mm compared to the 16 is the bokeh. it gives you fantastic bokeh. It just blurs that background out like you have no idea. It's really, really nice. Now, I also told you earlier that I love using this lens on a gimbal because it's light, so that makes the gimbal a little lighter. So for me, after holding that gimbal for a couple hours, my arms start to get a little bit sore. So the fact that it's a little bit lighter, hey, that's great. But the best thing about shooting with this on a gimbal, like I said earlier, is the bokeh. The bokeh is really, really nice on a gimbal, and when you start moving around objects, and when you have your subject tight in the focus and the background is nice and blurry, I love that effect. Now, it takes a little bit of getting used to because I'm so used to shooting with my gimbal and my 16mm because I do like that wide lens look where everything's kind of in focus. But this is fantastic for getting a little bit more blurred background. It works really, really well on a gimbal. Okay, as you can see, I'm shooting in the same location and the same subjects. This is downtown Ottawa. Beautiful spot. I love it. Now, first off, you can see I'm using the Sigma 16mm lens. Now, this is what it looks like with the 16mm. The shots are a little bit wider, but everything looks very, very good. I think you get nice smooth shots because of the gimbal. Now, if we switch that over to the 30mm lens, you're going to see that bokeh we talked about is just fantastic. The background is really, really blurred. Way more than the 16, and that's obvious because they're completely different lenses. But I think I love the fact that you have a different option here. If you want to just get some straight shots with a gimbal where everything's nice and smooth and the shots look great and in focus, that's great. The 16mm will be fantastic. But sometimes you want to change that up a bit and get a little bit more blurred background, a little bit more depth of field going on. And the bokeh in this is really, really nice, and I think it makes a big enough difference to make the argument that one lens works really, really well and the other one works well, but if you want a different look, you can just change up your lenses and get that look that you're looking for. Okay, so let's talk about some cons of this lens. To be honest, there's not really a lot of cons other than the fact that it's a prime lens. But of course, if you're buying it, you know you're getting a prime lens. Now, if you have the Sony camera that has the clear image zoom, you can use that a little bit. I wouldn't rely on that a lot. Now, if having a zoom lens is really important to you, obviously this is not going to work, and there's a lot of fantastic zoom lenses out there. But if you're looking for something simple to give you really good photos, really good video, in a prime lens with this 30mm, I think this does a really good job. So there's not a lot of cons. I don't find a lot of cons with this lens at all. So what about you at home? Do you have this lens? Is it something that you really enjoy using? Out of the three Sigmas, the 16, the 30, the 56, what's your favorite lens? I'm kind of up in the air. I still really like using the 16, and I haven't had the 30 for that long, but so far it's been a lot of fun to use the 30 and get that different look. Maybe I'll get the 56 to get all three of them like a lot of people have. Now, of course, people will say, why didn't you just get a zoom lens instead of buying all those different lenses? Well, I actually like using a prime lens every now and then. It just makes things a little bit easier. Sure, you might have to change the lenses every now and then, but for me, I like getting the shots that I want, and sometimes a prime is nice and simple, and it'll get you the shots that you want. Okay, so thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If not, that's okay. If you want to subscribe, that would be great. This is all part of my lens series. I have a couple videos already, and I have a couple other videos in mind that I'm really looking forward to making. Again, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.